Welcome to Bet On It. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Marco D'Angelo and Ralph Michaels of WagerTalk.com. It's Bet On It, the college basketball edition. We're going to keep this one rolling, boys. And we've had some ups and downs, but overall pretty good considering we don't know the lines before those Saturday games. You know what we do know now? It's Wednesday, March 8th. We're filming at 11 a.m. Eastern here on the West Coast. So we've got lines for those Thursday games, and we are bringing them in hot. Marco D'Angelo, how has your March been so far?
It's been good, Kelly. It's been a great basketball season in general. We've hit 62% for the year. Want to finish it out strong. Got a couple plays we like a lot here. We're in action for Wednesday night as well. Got a strong play going on the night card. So March Madness has begun. To me, this is the best week. I know everybody loves when we get to the big dance next week, but conference tournament week presents opportunities that this is the only time of the year you're going to be able to use certain angles. You're going to have teams that are going to play 4 games in 4 days. It is total chaos, nonstop action for 4 days. I love it.
I love it too. Speaking of angles, we've got the king of TNA and also the self-proclaimed king of March. We had a little dispute last week on who was better in the month of March over the last 5 years, but we'll leave that one up for you guys to head over to wagertalk.com and check out those records. Ralph Michaels, how's your March been so far? And I want to know, do we have some TNA for today?
Actually, Kelly, don't make controversy between Marco and I. There really was no controversy. I was number 1 in March last year. I was number 1 at March Madness 2 years ago. Marco has kicked my butt this year in the college basketball season. Congrats, Marco. A great run on your part. I finally turned my streak around. I had 3 weeks of hellacious picks. So happy that we've turned it around. And reminder, guys, the rest of college basketball, get Marco, get myself, or get any capper at Wager Talker Sports Memo, just $149. The rest of the conference tournaments, all of March Madness, the NIT, the CBI, every college basketball play through the conference tournament. We do have a little TNA. I broke down what each conference has done as a favorite, the over-unders, and some situations like having double revenge. And we'll also look at how teams do when they're playing back-to-back games like Iowa State and Baylor.
Ooh, you love to see it. Well, let's get started here. All the lines, and this is a shameless plug because I'm a company woman. Whether it's Wager Talk or Barstool Sports, we're using all the lines courtesy of the Barstool Sportsbook. We're going to get started Thursday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. I hope you guys are ready out there on the West Coast. Rutgers, a 2.5-point dog versus Michigan. Total 132. Marco D'Angelo, I'm going to kick it to you first here. Michigan just cannot seem to close out games, and it drives me absolutely and utterly bonkers. Your thoughts on this one?
Well, Kelly, we could call this one the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde game, because I'll tell you what, you talk about two teams that at times this year both have looked sensational, and at other times both have looked god-awful. And you're right, Michigan has had some games where they've let them slip away late, and that's where I'm going to look at this game. I just can't trust Michigan laying points. I know we're laying a small number here, but this Michigan team, you look at the last 2 games particularly, they had hard-fought games at Illinois, at Indiana. They end up losing both of them in gut-wrenching fashion. I know everybody starts with a clean slate when you get to the conference tournament. Everybody has that 0-0 record for the tournament. But I can't help but think that those late game collapses by Michigan got to play in the back of their mind. And I like Rutgers in this game. I'm going to take them tonight. Rutgers shot as bad as anybody could in that last game against Michigan. They shot 38% from the field, 30% from 3, and hit, are you ready for this? Just 5 of 16 from the foul line. I think it's going to be a lot closer game. I think this one goes right down to the wire. I'm going to take the points. Let's call it Rutgers with a mild upset to start off the Big Ten tournament.
Now, Ralph, this is always interesting, and I like to pose this question to several handicappers during these weeks because we're looking at neutral site games, right? We're not looking at away games, but some teams do have a little bit of an advantage. I'm not saying either one of these teams do, but how do you look at let's just call it more of a home court advantage, right? We can start talking about it when we get in terms of the Big 12, close proximity of both Kansas schools and things like that.
Obviously, Michigan will have more fans than Rutgers. Marco said this is a small upset. I'm looking at the Ken Palm rankings. Rutgers got as high as 14 when they beat Ohio State. Rutgers probably would have been a 4-point favorite here if this game were being played in mid-January. What happened? They've gone 2-7 down the stretch. And you read the Rutgers papers and the news reports, it's like their players are like, I don't know why we suck so bad. And the coach is like, I don't know. We can't figure out what we're doing well. That's not always a prelude that they're going to play bad in the tournament because it is a reset. I will say this. I'm going to talk a little bit about the total, and I like the under here. Marco talked about some of the offensive ineptness for Rutgers. Well, you're talking about a team that has been one of the worst offensive teams down the stretch in college basketball since February 11th. They've shot 35%, 38%, 37%, and 36%. They have not topped 50% shooting since February the 1st against Minnesota, the worst team in the Big Ten. You look at Michigan, oh yeah, guess what? Going back since the first of the year, they have topped 49% shooting one time. On the defensive end, Rutgers, number 4 as far as defensive efficiency. They have held 4 of their last 10 foes in the 30% shooting. Michigan State has not allowed 50% shooting since Penn State back in the beginning of the year. I did go to the database, Kelly, and I looked up each of the conferences. I will say this. Now, they've played at Indianapolis for a couple years. I know they played at Kansas City a couple years. A lot of these conferences are playing in the same places. Big Ten conference tournament favorites have only gone 42.5% since 2018, and 48.8% have gone over the total, so 52% to the under. So again, this is just all Big Ten conference favorites, 42.5% against the spread. So that has not been a good situation. But Rutgers, 1-8 over under as a dog. And when they're a big favorite, when Rutgers has been a favorite of 9 or more, they have actually run up the score and have gone 8 overs and 3 unders. But as a dog or a small favorite, Rutgers 5-15 over under in this season. I'm going to go under, but I'm going to do this. The total is 132.5. The first half totals are not set yet. They may be coming out by the time this show gets posted, but it's going to be about 59. You take 132.5, divide it in half, that's 61.25. You knock off a couple points. I'm going to go under 59. And why is that important to me? Well, both of these teams are on the bubble. So this is an elimination game. So if we have a team that has a 6, 7, or 8-point stretch with 2 minutes to go, the other team has nothing to lose but to continue to foul to try to close the gap and make some threes. I'm going to take that part of the equation out of it and go under in the first half.
All right, Ralph, you just mentioned the Big 12. So let's go to Kansas City Thursday, 12 Eastern, 9:30 Pacific. Iowa State at Baylor. These two just played each other in the last regular game of the season. Baylor is a 4.5-point favorite total, 134.5.
Well, to TNA, Kel. First off, Baylor talked. Scott Drew said we were embarrassed. Losing that season finale at home against Iowa State by 15 points. They actually, it seems like they almost quit playing. Why did Iowa State crush them? Well, I mean, Iowa State 15-22 from the free throw line. Baylor only 10-18. Baylor only shot 36% from 2-point, 9 of 25. This is one of the most efficient offenses in college basketball. On the flip side, Iowa State, 20 of 32, 62.5%. Let's look at what the Big 12 has done. Again, they're playing this game in Kansas City. Obviously, an edge to Kansas and Kansas State being in state. But when you look at Big 12 conference favorites, like the Big 10, they have not done well. Big 12 conference favorites have only gone 40.7%. They've only covered 41%. Over-unders have gone 54%. 2 TNA situations I want to talk about with Baylor. What happens if you are playing in the conference tournament with double revenge and you're a favorite of 3 or more. Baylor is in that situation, as is Mississippi State and Southern. And I will say this, on Wednesday, you could just keep track of this. Wake Forest against Syracuse and Colorado against Washington are also in that same role. So that is a team that has lost both games in the regular season, and they're a favorite of 3 or more in the conference tournaments. Edge to Baylor there. But when I look at how teams do when you play back-to-back games, the regular season finale and the opener here, I will say this. Teams that win the regular season finale have gone 57.8% in the conference tournaments. That edge goes to Iowa State, but I have a negative as well. If a team like Iowa State won on the road, like they did at Baylor, they've only covered 40.4%. So while I mentioned the positive for Iowa State, when I break down the road win as a negative, it's a lean towards Baylor. Double revenge as a favorite, lean towards Baylor. I believe that they're going to rebound from what they called a very embarrassing loss. Offense beats defense in this game. Slightest of leans. This is my weakest lean on all of them on the board. I'm going to lean Baylor minus the points.
Marco, I'm with Ralph. I do lean towards Baylor, but as Big Cat tweeted yesterday, guess what leans don't do? They don't pay your bills because you don't end up getting to the window. Of course, those leans usually pan out better for me than my actual picks. That being said, Iowa State, I can't trust this team on the road. They're just 3-7 at ATS. They're 1-2 against the spread on neutral courts this year. I just don't have a strong feeling that they're going to go out there and be able to keep up with Baylor, even though they just did in Waco, especially a lower total for these two. Slight lean towards Baylor. I know Flagler was quoted saying that, hey, I haven't gotten a Big 12 championship. I've got a national title. I've got a regular season championship. We've beaten everybody in the conference, but I do not have a Big 12 championship. Slight lean to Baylor in this one. Marco, what say you?
No lean for me. I like Baylor, and there's several reasons why. We look at those two games, and yeah, they were as ugly as they could be for Baylor. Was there anything, outliers? And that's what I like to look at when I break down the conference tournament games is I would go back and look at when they played during the regular season. Was there anything, different about those games? Well, let's go to the first game. Baylor had a horrible shooting night that night as well. But guess what? That game was on New Year's Eve. So we don't really know the mental status of all of these teams. And let's not forget, these are 20-some-year-old kids. Are they focused for a New Year's Eve game? I don't know. But I know this much. When they played the second time, it was the season finale, and Baylor was coming off on a horrendous scheduling spot. They had played 6 straight games where they were in a different city, meaning they either played back-to-back road games or a one-game homestand, back and forth around the Big 12. And 3 of those last 4 games were grueling games. They played at Kansas State, and then Texas at home. Then they played Oklahoma State on the road, got a road win, and came right back home for the season finale against Iowa State. I think they were just not mentally prepared for Iowa State in that last game. You see the stats, how bad they shot in every category. I think we get the real Baylor here. Yeah, they were embarrassed. You saw the coach talk about it. So I expect a good outing out of them. You might want to split this one up into 2 wagers. Take Baylor first half and take Baylor full game. I'm going to go ahead for the show and go Baylor full game. I have no problem taking them first half as well because I think we see the real Baylor from the onset in this one.
All right, Baylor pretty much across the board here. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we're moving on to the Big East.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at Wager Talk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at Wager Talk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to wagertalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Now it's time for my least favorite conference. Yeah, that's right, the Big East. We've got Providence versus UConn. UConn's actually up to 7.5 now. Total 145.5 in some spots. I'm not even going to attempt to handicap this because this has been my worst conference by far all season. Marco, help me make it make sense.
Well, Kelly, I like the Big East. However, full disclosure, Providence has been the thorn in my side for not only this year, last year. Doesn't matter if I take them or I go against them, they stick it to me. So you got full warning before I break this one down. But the reason why Providence has given me so many problems is their record is better than their stats say it should be. And every time I step in front of them is when they throw up one of their 55% from the field games. When I ride them, yeah, they live up to what their record should be. But in this one, I'm going to go ahead and look at Connecticut. You know I like defensive teams, and Connecticut just plays absolute tenacious defense. They've held 4 of their last 6 opponents to 39% or less. I think they give Providence fits in this game. They split home wins. In the Providence win, Connecticut had one of their worst shooting nights that night, just 36.5% for the game, 5 of 22 from three-point range. That's 23%. And they even were horrible at the foul line, going just 10 of 19 in a 12-point loss. It sounds double-digit loss, but if you look at all of those stats, they just, beef up part of that, and they make that game closer. I like Connecticut here. I think a lot of people are going to jump on the Providence bandwagon, think this is going to be a close game. Going to take Connecticut. Not happy the line's going up. 7.5 is about as high as I'd go in this one. I've got Connecticut winning this one by 10. Weak vote, guys, just because of my past history with Providence.
Marco, I get it. This conference has been so infuriating to me all season long, and both these teams have been really great against the spread. UConn, 20-11 on the season. Ralph, are we rolling with them here in the Big East tournament?
I am not, because I have to go against Marco. I will say this. Earlier, I tweeted out a system in college basketball. And that's why we always say, Kelly, when we do TNA segments, it's like buyer beware, anything can change. Well, when you looked at a conference tournament opening game with a team that won their last 2 games against a team that lost their last 2 games, coming into this season, that system was 63 and 86, 42.3%. A solid play against. You think the hotter team is going to have the benefit? Well, the line's inflated, and the team that's actually lost back-to-back games has covered almost 60%. Well, guess what? That system this year is 74%. So it's completely changed from what it was. This system applies to that. Originally, I was thinking I was going to lean Providence and perhaps make them a play. But I look at them, and while I'm going to have a lean with Providence, there's no way I can get to the window with them. It's one thing losing back-to-back games like they have. And in the last 4 games, they lost at UConn. They only beat Georgetown, lost to Xavier, lost to Seton Hall. They allowed 55.7% shooting at home to Xavier, and they allowed Seton Hall to shoot 62.5%. This is the defense that's top 100 in the country. Ed Cooley has to be going crazy. What the hell had happened to our offense? Marco talked about UConn's defense. Last 2 games, absolutely amazing. 35.0 to 36.4. I'm going to be contrarian. I like going against those situations where a team like Providence, 21 wins, still wants to get a win under their belt. And UConn, I don't think I've ever seen a team like UConn going into March Madness. They are, let me grab their record. Their record is 24-7. Obviously, we know they're a quality team. Ken Palm has them number 6. Net Rankings has them number 8. And when the March Madness tournament lists their 16 coming into this week, they didn't even list them in the 16. So the technicals love this UConn team. A defense in the top 10 as far as effective field goal percentage, but they turn the ball over on offense. That's one of their problems. The negative here, Providence, one of the worst turnover teams on defense. They don't force turnovers. UConn, one of the best teams forcing turnovers, but guess what? Providence guards don't turn the ball over. When I look at Big 12 teams and what they've done in Madison Square Garden, Big East teams in Madison Square Garden, well, ATS favorites in the Big East have only gone 12 and 18. That's 40%. 43% of the games have gone over. So that means 57% of these games have gone under. And I will say this, well, I'm going to give out the slightest lean to Providence because I do love Ed Cooley, what he's done with his team last year, getting a lot of close wins, how I think he can keep it close. I do lean unders to most of these games when you're playing in the big arena. We saw those teams playing in Brooklyn. People talk about when you play in Brooklyn, the sight lines are different. The lighting is different. Same thing with the first games in Madison Square Garden. Yes, UConn's a big team, but I'll tell you what, Gamble Pavilion only holds 10,000. Providence plays in an arena that holds 11,000 or so. So you're going from these smaller arenas to this first-time game in a conference rivalry with different sight lines. So lean Providence to turn it around, lean the under as well.
You just have to go against Marco, don't you, Ralph? No, all jokes aside, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We're going down to the SEC, Arkansas versus Auburn. This one's already ticked up a little bit, guys. Current line over at the Barstool Sportsbook, Arkansas plus 1.5, total 144. Ralph, I would love to back the Razorbacks here, but this team is so infuriating from three-point range that I don't think I have the guts to do it. Bruce Pearl's done a really good job with this Auburn team over the last few seasons. I think they get the job done here.
Kelly, at the beginning of the season, I thought Arkansas would be a top 20 team. No question. You know, Ken Pom has them up there, but you're 19 and 12, and you've lost five of your last 7 games. And I understand why in the middle. You know, Nick Smith has only started 9 games, including the last 5 or 6. And now we have a player who replaced him, and he's the best 6th man in the SEC. So I think Arkansas is the one team that I think has value to be a long shot that could get to the Final Four. Am I going to back them here? Well, we'll see in a minute. I don't think they should be a dog. That's for sure. One system that I do bring up, even though I think Arkansas should be the favorite, is when a team struggles down the stretch going into conference tournament play, they have been a complete fade. Kelly, 33% against the spread. This goes back since 2012, and it's over 100 games of sample size. And it says this: if a team lost their last game as a favorite, like Arkansas did against Kentucky, and lost their previous 2 games, remember, they went to Alabama and lost, and they went to Tennessee and lost, and are a small dog or a favorite, like they are in this role, 33% against the spread. That means a fade situation. You look at Musselman, and again, I thought they'd be a top 20 team for sure, but he has really changed the way he's looking at this team. He talked about his normal 5 guys that he starts. He is probably going to start 3 new starters in this game to play defense on Auburn's 5 guys. Auburn has 5 players, and if anyone scores 20 or more points, it is not a surprise at all in that situation. So I have a team like Arkansas who plays solid defense, who does pressure, who's going to tweak their offense to play better defense against an Auburn team. Now, Auburn's played some decent defense down the stretch as well. And when you look at Arkansas's offense the last 2 games, 36.7% and 35.7%. While Auburn has gone over the total 18 of 31 games, they have now topped 55% since playing Georgia on the 1st of February. To me, of all the games we're talking about, this seems like the best underplay for me. This is my top play of the 4. The total is currently 144. And when you look at Auburn, they are 13-4 over under with a total of 139 or less. They had a lot of early games with low totals, But when they have a total of 140 or more, even there they're considered an over team, only 5 overs and 9 unders in that stretch. Under for me, and I'm likely going to get to the window with this, and I'll likely split it first half and full game to the under.
All right, Ralph. I may, after seeing a little data here, have a slight lean towards Arkansas. 4-1 ATS this year, Marco, on a neutral court. Does that get you to the window with the Razorbacks?
This came close to being my best bet for the show, Kelly. I like Arkansas in this one. And, Ralph talked about that they struggled down the stretch, losing 5 of 7 games. Did you look at who they played down the stretch? They played 6 of the 7 games that they played were all the top teams in the SEC. They played Texas A&M down the stretch. They played Alabama. They played Tennessee. All 3 of those games were on the road. And you talk about a juggernaut. And then they finished up the season in their home finale against the Kentucky team that's caught fire at the end of the season, like they do so often as we talk about those blue blood teams that start out slow and gain traction as the season progresses. I like them here, and it's all about their defense. With the exception of those last 2 games of the season when they played Tennessee and Kentucky, this is a team that held 6 of their last 9 opponents to 39% or less shooting. Talk about defense, talk about the better defense getting points. Granted, we're only getting 1.5 points. But as Ralph said, if you'd have rewound this game and played it a month ago, they're the favorite in this game. I'm taking Arkansas here. I'm not sold on Auburn. I like Arkansas plus the points. I think they win this one. Comfortable margin. I've got them winning by 4 or more. Getting the points. Get to the window, Kelly. Hope I pushed you there. Oh, and I have one stat. I got one stat that'll put the
Are you trying to steal the Stat Daddy's thunder here, Marco?
Do I have a pen somewhere?
He made
I got a pen
peace
here. I got a pen.
And-
Listen, we got something for you here. Key stat: Arkansas is 9-0 against the spread, revenging a loss versus an opponent of 10 points or more the last 3 seasons.
Are you going to give
stat, Daddy?
Are you going to give Ralph his credit for using his database?
No,
right,
this one wasn't Ralph's. I got this.
I'm just teasing.
But I do want to give Ralph credit for one thing, Kelly. I want to give him credit for ignoring my tweets or my text on Saturday when I kept sending him a picture of, because he was going to buy me a Coke when I won the total bet. And I got no response when I kept sending pictures of Coke.
Marco, I will buy you a Coke on Friday night.
Can you at least put some Jack in it? Come on, Marco. It's time to grow up. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it's time for Best Bets.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at Wager Talk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at Wager Talk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to wagertalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome back to Bet On. It's now time for Best Bets, and apologies for last week. And I did my job, as VR used to like to say, and I got the best of the number with Tech. Line moved 4 points. Didn't matter. They lost outright. So another CLV trophy to add somewhere to all my imaginary trophies behind me. But we're going back to that low-hanging fruit, the Big 12 tournament there in Kansas City. Kansas State catching 2.5. Am I missing something here? Maybe. I've been pretty accurate about this Kansas State team for a better part of the year. Unfortunately, I ended up getting my one lone loss in Morgantown last week. But as I mentioned, we're going to Kansas City, catching 2.5. Little close proximity there for Wildcat fans, about an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive to the T-Mobile Center. I do expect this place to be pretty filled with Kansas State fans come tip-off on Thursday afternoon. And as I mentioned, the 2.5 points, I don't know if we're going to need it because I think this one's going to come down to defense and free throws. K-State has the better tempo. They have the better defense. And the one Achilles heel that they have, they turn the ball over a ton. And guess what? They can't defend the 3-ball. 2 things I'm not really that concerned about with the Horned Frogs. I know a lot of people like TCU as the dark horse to win the Big 12 tournament, but they're not getting past the Wildcats on Thursday. Marco D'Angelo, your best bet for this Thursday.
Well, Kelly, we're going to see if we can do as well as we did last week. Oklahoma got the money for me last Saturday in easy fashion, winning outright as an underdog. But I'm not going with an underdog this week. We're actually laying some wood and we're laying some big lumber. And I'm looking at Cal Irvine in the Big West Conference. That'll be played here in Las Vegas, over actually in Henderson at the new Dollar Loan Center. And this Irvine team, if you haven't watched them, they play absolute shutdown defense. Now, people are going to look at this game and they're going to see that spread of 11. And they're going to look at the first two meetings. They played earlier in the year. It was a 4-point game at Bakersfield. Irvine won by 4. They won by 4. They didn't shoot well in that game. And Kelly, I don't know what Bakersfield was doing, but they were fouling them all night long. And Cal Irvine missed 21 foul shots in that game. They left a ton of points on the table and still won by 4. Now, in the second meeting, happened to be just last Saturday, and they were a 16-point home favorite. They only won by 8 in a snoozer, beating Bakersfield 52-44. So how are they going to cover the 11 here on the neutral site? Well, here's the deal. That game on Saturday, they just went through the motions. They knew that they were probably going to meet them again in the Big West tournament. They were coming off a monster game the game before. They went on the road and beat Riverside, and that put them in a first-place tie in the Big West. So looking at Bakersfield coming to town, they just felt they had to show up and they would win that game. They did. Now you're going to see the real Irvine defense totally focused for a full 40 minutes, and I think they get the job done. Like we said with a couple other games today, this is one of those ones, if you want to split it up first half and full game, I've got no problem with that. For the show, I'm going full game. I'm taking Irvine. I'm going to lay the points. And here's a stat for you. Bakersfield's coming off that 52-44 loss last week. Well, the last 2 seasons, after allowing 60 points or less, Bakersfield's just 4-16 against the spread. This total right now is sitting at 130 and a half. When Bakersfield's been involved in a total that was between 130 and 139 and a half, they are just 4-12 against the spread in those games. I'm taking the defense, and they're going to get the job done. Go ahead and take it with Irvine on Thursday.
All right. Thank you for that one, Marco. Ralph Michaels, finish us up with best bets.
Kelly, I got a question for you. Is this Kansas State team better than the 2019 team with Wade and Stokes and Brown? It's too bad Wade got hurt, right? When did he get hurt? In the conference tournaments he got hurt? I mean, I'm watching him now as a Cleveland Cavalier, and I can't imagine the run you might have made with him in, playing that year. You think this team's actually better than that team?
I do think this team is better, and I think the argument that is there is this team could be better than the team that made the Elite Eight about 13, 14 years ago. So that's an interesting argument as well. This team is playing as a really nice, cohesive unit. As I mentioned, their Achilles heel is turning the ball over. But if they make their free throws and this team is focused, which Jerome Tang has tended to keep them that way, I do agree with you that they are better than the 2019. And we'll see what they make as far as a March run goes, and if we can argue that they're better. I believe it was the 2008 team.
Gotcha. Well, guys, I'm going to go with one of the lowest totals on the board, and I'm going to go first half. Sometimes, guys, if it looks that easy, there's times it is. We have Mississippi State Bulldogs, which are a top 10 defense team in the country. They are absolutely elite. Chris Jans was an assistant at Ohio State. He had them playing defense. He went to New Mexico State. They were an elite defensive team, and the Bulldogs now are into a system and playing well. Mississippi State, one of the slowest paced teams. There's 363 teams in Division I. They are number 334. Florida was a very up-tempo team. A lot has changed, though. Chris Castleton, their senior, has missed the last 4 or 5 or 6 games. The offense has had to change, and they struggled. We know what an equalizer, the 3-point shot is, and we know how that can really screw your totals. Well, guess what? 363. Mississippi State is dead last in 3-point percentage, and they don't take a lot of shots. They're in the 250s. Florida does not take a lot of 3-point shots. Guess what? They're number 289 in 3-point offense. Oh, yeah, by the way, 3-point defense, the teams are number 31 and number 59 in the country. This is going to be a snooze fest. And as I talked about, while I have Mississippi State in the tournament, one of the last seeds in the SEC, Florida is not in. They're 16 and 15. They have to win this tournament if they're going to advance. I am going to play the first half. Now, this total is 129.5. So you take that in half, it's going to be 64 plus. Knock off a couple points. I expect this to be about 62.5, maybe even 61.5, and I'm okay with that. I want to take out Florida in a desperation mode, fouling late in the game to play this. Best bet, Mississippi State and Florida, under in the first half. Expect the number, again, between 61.5 and 62.5.
All right. Thank you, Ralph. We're going to take our last commercial break. When we come back, it's time to recap.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at Wager Talk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at Wager Talk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to wagertalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Quick hitting show today. Went over some of the most notable games on the board. If you missed it, take the 20 minutes. Don't be lazy, or at least hit the subscribe button. Give us some likes. Jump in the comment section. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us. Either way, let's go over the games for Thursday, March 9th. Rutgers, Michigan. Rutgers plus 2.5 for Marco. First half under, and the projected line there would be 59 for Ralph Michaels. I cannot trust Michigan, so I'm going to side with Marco here and say, take the points with Rutgers. This one's already come down from the opening number of 3. Iowa State, Baylor in Kansas City. Pretty much everybody across the board agrees with Baylor. We're a little late to the party, Ralph and I, but Marco says, don't worry, he likes Baylor to run away with this one. And the conference that has plagued me all season long, the Big East. We got the boys head-to-head. Marco likes UConn, which is now up to 7.5, and Ralph likes Providence plus the points. Arkansas, Auburn. Sounds like we all pretty much like Arkansas here. Ralph more so the under 144. Marco says he'll take the point. Thinks this one might go in the other direction. As far as best bets go, as I said, I'm going to keep taking that low-hanging fruit. I'm going to take K-State plus 2.5 in Kansas City with a little home court advantage there at T-Mobile Arena. Best bet for Marco, UC Irvine minus 11. Best bet for Ralph, Mississippi State, Florida. First half under the projected line of 63. Again, thank you guys for hanging out with us each and every show. Now we moved it to Wednesdays. We'll be back, though, next week. I'm off to Napa to drink a ton of wine because, well, sometimes me and the prop queen need to have a little bit of reprieve. And unfortunately for her, working at the MLB Network, I get stuck going on her schedule. But I'm going to put out some plays. We're going to have a great time, drink some nice red vino. Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas. Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV. Make sure you're giving both of them a follow. And until next week, let's bet on it.